político en gobernanza electrónica, ciudades inteligentes y transformación digital. Ha generado trabajo destacado en la Comisión Económica y Social de las Naciones Unidas para Asia Occidental. Tiene gran experiencia en evaluación de políticas nacionales y estrategias de TI. Además, ha generado implementación de enfoques de Chief Information Officer en reingeniería de procesos y gestión del cambio. En la actualidad, el Dr. Zoughbi colabora con la Autoridad del Gobierno Digital de Arabia Saudita y es cofundador del Foro de Gobernanza Digital para África Occidental. Su más reciente contribución en el campo es su libro con tema Planificación y Diseño de Ciudades Inteligentes en Naciones en Vías de Desarrollo, el mismo que fue publicado en el año 2022. Como pueden ustedes observar, solo con esta síntesis, podemos claramente darnos cuenta de la relevancia que tiene el Dr. Zoughbi dentro de la presentación que él va a realizar en unos minutos. En este contexto, también me gustaría comentarles que la conferencia magistral tendrá una duración de 40 minutos, seguida por una sesión de preguntas y respuestas, donde todos ustedes podrán interactuar con nuestro distinguido ponente. Sin más preámbulos, entonces, cedo la palabra al doctor Zoughbi. Por favor, démosle un caluroso aplauso. Saleem, go ahead.
Okay. Buenos días, profesores y profesoras, amigos. Yo hablo español, pero algunas veces yo un poco difícil. Yo voy a hablar en español y inglés también. Si por favor, es para mí un placer de hablar con ustedes aquí, pero excúsame si yo hay problemas en el grammar. So I would like, can I switch to English, George? Yeah, Jorge?
Right, Zoughbi. Perfect,
Yeah.
go ahead, please.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure. I tried to think of it in Spanish, but because of the lack of time for 40 minutes, I think it will be faster for me to speak English, but the presentation is in Spanish. So allow me to share my presentation, and so I focus on risks and challenges for digital transformation. So I'm sure all of you, academic community, you already have been there, you are teaching this, you are researching this. So without going into the unnecessary details, I have 4 or 5 subjects that complement each other. The first one is a general introduction. We know that the transformation is basically using technology, but actually it's much more than that. This is very important to understand. It's transforming an organization, a government office, from one way of doing things to another using technology. It implies changing the way of working as well. And this cannot be done without following up the new technologies that are coming. And if you notice, actually what we call the emerging technologies are very tricky these days. We think of artificial intelligence, etc., etc. Everybody is talking about this, but there's much more to this than we think of actually. So without worrying about what kind of technologies, it's important to keep in mind that we are automating, utilizar la automatización para mejorar el eficiente. So that means not just only having networking and hardware and good programs, etc., but actually the process, the way it works. But this process requires a lot of data, as we know. And digital transformation extends beyond having a nice platform, a nice technology, a nice approach to many things. Uh, one of the important challenges is the change management. We require with this, everybody think of an employee in the government having all of a sudden a nice computer, click here, click there, etc., without having a proper education and preparation. He or she will not accept that. It will find it difficult. So accepting this change of work is important. And there are every project in any government in doing a transformation, there must be a change management component in the project. We sometimes we have to rethink our traditional systems, the way we do that. And the digital transformation helps us also to do this rethinking, irrespective whether we need more hardware or not. So when we say digital, actually, it is not just only the framework, the platform, software, hardware, etc. It's actually a way of working, a new way of working that depends on data information. And a new way means we innovate something. So we require to have actually a more, let's say, new ideas of doing things. So innovation, as we say that it is a new way of doing what we do. So it's not necessarily creating a new thing or discovering a new thing, but discover a new way of doing this. And this needs a rapid evolution. Evolution is no, we cannot stop evolution. Evolution in technology, evolution in the way we think, evolution in the economic development in so many ways. So we cannot and stop what we are doing. And what we call this is actually agile emerging technology and using this kind of approach to respond to these changes. And the elements of any transformation is actually very quickly. By the way, I have this a PDF file. I sent it to the conference. So any one of you, my friends who are listening to me and have the pleasure of addressing you, you can have a copy, and it's a summary of what the main topic that I always, in many of the countries I go and meet with ministries, I meet with people who are deputy ministers or director generals. And very often, those, of course, they don't have to be professors in this topic, and they don't have to be good detailed knowledge. So the idea here is just to touch on the important thing. So integration of technology is important. We have to adopt new technologies, and we can think of the clouds and expert systems and artificial intelligence, etc. The decision makers, like in the government, or if it's a large company, of in the university, you have the presidents, etc. To make a good decision, they need data. And this data, there are many critical things about data: safety, security, is it authentic or not, fake news and fake data. There are so many things. With a new technology, we have new concerns. So this is an important thing. And the third one actually is, as you see, is the experience of the client experience. And we mean by client any person who is using this digital platform. A citizen connecting to the e-government portal to renew their passport or something, that's a client. So the digital transformation depends also on the experience gathered and feedback by these citizens. And Many times the process is like, 20 years ago, we used to say that this is a one-stop shop. When you want to, for example, when you want to issue your driving license, there are many things to be done. You have to go and get a paper from the municipality that you paid your taxes, then go to the police and make sure that you are allowed to drive. And then you have so many things, and you have to go to the court to see if there are any penalties or not, and then medical check, etc. So these are many processes. So this is the classical example. 20, 25 years ago, it was you had to log into the website of each of those, the police and the Ministry of Interior, etc. Now with just one click on the national portal, and the national portal in the background, it does all these things. So this is the simplification, optimization the processes. The change of culture and attitude, I mentioned that, and innovation, innovación de modelo de negocio, the way we do business, the way we negotiate and talk about business, especially small businesses. This is also is becoming more demanding and more efficient. The beneficios de la las mayor eficiencia operativa, experiencias es mejores, mejoradas that will help citizens and cities and citizens to adopt to the new rules and laws of the government, competitive ways of doing things, and the flexibility for creating businesses. It's important, and the mejor utilización de los datos. Very often we have a lot of a table, a simple Excel sheet. You have columns and rows and you have data. How many people are misled by just simply taking this Excel sheet, create out of it a chart or a table, the frequency table or crosstab or things, but there are much more information we can get from data. Es lo mismo en el datos personales de la digital transformation. Hay muchas, hay diferentes modelos de trabajar con el datos. This means we need secure cybersecurity, secure and privacy well designed for it. And of course, it reduces the cost for work. And just a quick summary, as you see, resistance and change and risks and cybersecurity. Those are the four important, let's say, challenges that any digital transformation in any country will encounter. So, and there must be some kind of, we have to, not to split the community. Those in the villages, they don't have the chance to study, to learn about using whatever, WhatsApp or YouTube or Netscape or Google or Chrome, and others, kids 5 years old in other families, other cities, they know how to do that very easily. So, and the cost of access to those resources, the cost of internet, the cost of hardware, and things like this. And to accelerate, actually, the digital transformation requires new programs, new platforms, and new methods to make the operations work faster and smoothly. And this cannot be done without the proper resources, the proper teaching, tutorial, and training, and tools that you need. So all those together, and those are the, let's say, the basics of accelerating the transformation. Notice that in the pillars of the important pillars of sustainable development, and this is something we hear a lot. I'm sure you heard a lot about sustainable development. Well, simply sustainable development is you do the best for your community now, for your generation. So you use the natural resources, you take care of your environment, you have economic development, etc., etc. But do not jeopardize those resources for the next generation. So your next generation, your kids will still have a good environment, a good economic resource, etc. And the economic growth is important. The protection of the environment. People talk about climate change, etc. I'm sure one of you, my friends, would say, "What this has to do with digital transformation?" Well, it's the climate change and environment, although I don't know much about those, but definitely I was looking at a project we have in Africa, in West Africa, accessing satellite data and looking at those satellite images with a proper analysis of this data. You can derive with some experts in agriculture, you can tell the government this area next year should be planted with this trees, with this vegetable, because we expect the climate to be there. So these things are examples of how digital transformation is not only technology, it affects everything in our life, in health as well. The social inclusion. We have to think of the old people, young people, people who are special needs, people who are people who are rich, people who are poor. All those. This is the inclusion principle. And equal intergeneration. This is important also because we cannot. You have to have young people, elder people, all kinds of communities that are. Imagine what's going on, for example, in Japan. The average age is very high because mostly are old people there. The number of young people are very small. Considering other countries, like, for example, in Saudi Arabia, the young generation is almost a large number of them are really young people. So this kind of approach have to be, the digital transformation has to consider what kind of community we are working with. We have, number 6 is important. Vision a largo plazo. You have to, we say sometimes in colloquial English, think out of the box or go back one step and look at a larger thing. Or like a bird's eye view. Imagine yourself a bird and flying so you can see the ground from a larger picture. So the sustainable development using digital transformation, you must think from a larger view and in addition to the details, to go minor details to everything. And how we can facilitate the evolution of development. There is innovation is a cycle for investment, for technology to buy, to have a platform and manage and train and get people and have revenues and so forth. The technology, and number 2, the second one is very interesting, which is emerging technologies. Without you don't, you see, it's always being discovered. Something new is coming up. So very often nowadays, since we mentioned artificial intelligence, imagine sometimes one of you, my friends, are just you left your home and you either take the bus or drive to the university or to your work, and all of a sudden, you'll hear a beep on your mobile, either an audio message or you read a message telling you, go back, you forgot, you didn't take your pill in the breakfast, or do something, or etc. And there might be a problem because your boss has in the news already has an emergency, will not be there. See, those things are coming from artificial intelligence programs. These are emerging technologies, and this is not science fiction. This is already some of it there. So it's not only we have to adapt to those things, but we cannot neglect them. We cannot turn our face away. And so we are talking about Internet of Things, Internet of Everything, IoE. There are so many applications nowadays. You can turn off the lights of your house before you sleep, or it does it automatically without you programming it, and so forth. It's all has is summarized by the two words adoption digital. We have to think digitally. This is an important case. The in I would go to adoption of technology. I would focus mostly on, of course, research and development, but there must be a collaboración entre la academia, la industria, el gobierno. And this is what we call the PPP, public-private partnership. Now it is not three P's, it is four P's, public, private, people partnership. So the cooperation is between the government, the office of the passport issuing passport, and a company is working, some other private company, and a society, an association, an individual person. So the infrastructure is mentioned that, and the networking of digital telecommunications and other, and the actually the capacity building is important to make sure that people are not left behind. So knowledge and learning has to be provided, and ethics. Uh, there's a lot, although people love the AI nowadays, but there are conferences, international and UN conferences about talking about, and UNESCO, we have that also. Is AI good? How can we control this AI? And without going political, I don't know if you know, but in the current wars, at least in my part of the world, I am Palestinian, artificial intelligence programs that were specially designed by the US and Israel have been used automatically. They manage, they monitor all the WhatsApp messages and calls, etc., and looking automatically looking for words that antagonize the Israeli army, and sends a signal to the drones to go and bomb that place. So sometimes, and not sometimes, emerging technologies is not only always the good side. Sometimes, if not used properly, it might be very difficult indeed. And the same thing is happening in Mali. The same thing happening in some parts of Ukraine and other places. It's not only the war, but also the health, the viruses and diseases. Also, the AI might or technologies might make a wrong conclusion. So we should be human, but we shouldn't turn our face away from emerging technologies. And that is mostly concentrated on making sure if we'd like to have good human development, health, education, and a way of living, which means economic, etc. I think I have still 15 minutes more, perhaps, George? Hello? Yeah. Okay. Uh, uh, I would like to skip on few things, but it's very important that the economic growth is addressed properly, and in particular, the small and medium enterprise uh, companies, the PYME. Okay, and this is with this, many of your graduates from the universities, brilliant ones, young people, they go out. whether they find a job or not. But some of them sit down and they decide 2 or 3 to start their own company. Simple thing. Let's start a company to make web pages and get money, and they gradually grow. This is a simple example where technology can provide growth. Not, of course, not talking of the large companies who depend on digital technologies for their money. I would like also to mention the culture and the employment, but look at the inclusión financiera. If you don't have a bank account and you need to pay something and you are somewhere else away from a bank, you can do it with your mobile. That's just a simple example, but that is the meaning of financial inclusion. It's not only just paying $10 for a fee or something. Companies do that now with hundreds of thousands and millions. You see movies and how millions of money being transferred. And education and access to the health care as well, and government services is important. So all those are not basically the progress, how they benefit from the social development. And there are, I would like to mention already, but this is from the government point of view, and the services are the most important part. This is what we always talk. Recently, as you know, the EGDI have been released, and it's all based about online services, the government services. Now think beyond that too, financial services. You already know the education services. Your students can log in and study your course remotely, for example. So all those things are constitute the services available for the public. Education and laws, políticas and regulación. Is the government would have, every government has legislation passed in the parliament, small ones, big ones, details, but those control and affect the behavior and usage of digital technology. If you put on X or Facebook or something, you make something that is a crime, that is offending to somebody, so you are liable. You can be taken to court. There's a lot nowadays. The book which I'm finishing now, which will be published next summer, is a large by an American publisher. It's a large book. It's about information disorder, fake news. Can you imagine when you look at YouTube, you'll find all kinds of, or TikTok, whatever it is. You'll have lots of things. So your worry is to ask yourself, is this true or not? Is this reliable? Or is it fake or not? So the regulation and cyber legislation is important. I would like to, because of time, my friends, let me. We talked about the public-private partnership is important. The policies have to be aligned with each other. A policy for economic, for trade, a policy for education, a policy for, let's say, health. These are not separate because some laws interconnect those. So there must be an inclusive. And the security of data is perhaps the most important part here. And I will address just the confidential and private data, and vis-a-vis compared with open data. So you have open data on one side, which means data generated that is available for anybody to use, and private data. The best example is if you have a city municipality that has an open data, and so they have two kinds of data on their computer. One is the private data, the name of the citizens, how much they paid, where their addresses and phone. This is private and has to be confidential. But there is another part of data which is public. For example, how many cars are passing by this street, how much water is going that way and that way without any affecting anything. So that also includes the significance of data. I would like to skip to uh, one other important issue. Do we depend on technology being imported from outside? I'm not saying about technology. I'm not saying we should have a company to make computers and make networks. No, okay, we can get those. We can buy them from Europe, from China, from wherever it is. But the software, the technology of this, we can do it internally. Imagine if you buy a software done by a company somewhere else, and the maintenance and support will be very difficult. So this is important. The tecnología extranjera sometimes can be a major risk and obstacle as well. Reasons for failure. Razones, there is no clear strategy. People in the community, they refuse to deal with this transformation, with this program. They are afraid of it, maybe. There is no qualified leaders, people who lead this transformation projects. We don't have enough human capacity, enough people to work, and data, managing the data as well, and error in communications. We are using old computers, old versions of software. There are there's some kind of financial resources difficulties, not only financial resources are not available, and we don't worry about the transformation. We don't worry about the feeling of the users. We are doing this transformation for the users, the citizens, is everything. If we are doing this the way we think without looking at what they have in mind, we might be doing something else which is not they want. In Latin America, it's important because you have like United Nations, Latin America, El Caribe, ECLAC, or CEPAL in Spanish. Um, they have agreed, all the países in the Central Latin America, El Caribe, they agreed on a digital agenda for 2024. And they are moving ahead with it. And most of the countries, they develop their own strategies derived from this larger one. Ecuador is like one of those two. So, and what they do is they consult with the people. I'm not talking about this digital agenda. I'm just highlighting the important some important things. For example, the Ecuadorian government has really adapted something which is to consult with the users, to consult with the people who are using this with them. So this is they make reunion de trabajar to discuss things. I think the last one, as I saw on the web, was in Guayaquil. It was very successful. 100 more than 100 people, qualified citizens, not representing government offices, but citizens actually, irrespective where they come from. They voiced their concern and they made recommendations so the ministry can use those. And again, the details are really available. I really advise all of you, my friends, to take a closer look at the digital agenda of Latin America, El Caribe, and the one, your national one, Ecuador. One of the things, interesting thing, is that your region was one of the first to really develop an indicator to measure the usage of artificial intelligence, and they call it ILIA, yeah, in dice Latin America, de inteligencia artificial. And that, if you apply this, there is a method like a survey, etc. And if you apply it, you will find out at that moment how much reliance is being done on artificial intelligence. I recommend maybe some of your students in there who are doing a graduation project in the bachelor first degree or something, to really to try to apply it. It's simple to apply. I like it very much because we do a lot of those surveys as UN. EGDI, the big one, is one of those. And the nice thing about the model of all this is actually is a model that an integrated policy framework. Those are policies, the colored one, a policy relating to the user, a policy and legislation and rules relating how to access information and digital. And all those things, for example, for the society development conference, to have confidence in the data we have about the jobs. So all those, each one of those is a complete document by itself. Studying all those together, you would be able to have a vision of how the country, if they implement this agenda, that how the country will be. The agenda will be, for example, for 2 years or 3 years. So if they apply projects to realize all those things, then at the end you will achieve by 2 or 3 years, whatever the period of this agenda, a substantial development for the society in jobs and society and economy, etc. And one thing to just to mention, I know I have to try to finish in 5 minutes. The actually one thing very important, something what we call in English is disruptive forces. La fuerza disruptivas is those are technologies that might force us to change our way of dealing with technology, or non-technical things, but they are forcing us to change or not to continue what we are doing in the transformation. The simple thing is the money runs out. You are in the middle of transformation project, and for some reason, the money is out. Or some reason you were not allowed to get this equipment from this company or that company or etc. Or some new technologies require, like, oh, I have to replace all what I have done, start using this new technology. And this is always there. This threat is always there. How to deal with it, that depends on each case by case. And these are the let's say, the important uh, let's say sections of the agenda. It's very well done. I've been looking at agendas many countries, believe me. In SCAP, I'm going to Bangkok in Thailand for this in 2 weeks' time, and things. I've been in Africa 3 weeks ago, and so by examining, looking those and comparing those, I think this is one of the best I have seen in Latin America and Caribbean. I advise you, that one I showed you is a summary of this. So I advise you to look at those aspects. Each one of those, you have enough documentation in Espanol, so you can read if you want and do some research about that. Just to tell you about data, you are familiar with what is a kilobyte and megabyte, etc., etc. Maybe you are not familiar with what is a yottabyte or zettabyte, exabyte, or something. But see how big numbers, how many zeros is. See how much data we get every day. We get almost 400 million terabytes. Every year, we have so many zettabytes, the huge amount of data, huge. And those huge amounts of data generated not only from us, from users, from countries, etc., but also from satellites. They're coming down, a lot of data coming from satellites as well. We need data centers to manage them, big data. And as an example, normally a country, a model, a small country would need 1 or 2 data centers, 3 at most. Well, the United States is not only because it's a large country, but also they have independent provinces and states, etc. So they have many centers, data centers. Look at the data being generated. Can you take a look, see how in See how in the year 2010, very little data was generated. In 2025, next year, you could see right how much. And you could see the growth. The growth actually is, you see it's going smooth until the year 210 and 219. And from 220, only the last 4 years, see how much growth is. You expect that by 2030, even more and more. So this is why data is very important. Again, this is an example about a summary. You can take a look at it later on. And just a few comments. Is the disruptive forces are important. That's why I repeat this. And you don't have, if you don't have a clear strategy, well designed, and you manage the change management, you manage it well, and you would have leaders, good leaders, then you will have possibly certain many problems. So let me quick, you can take a look at those later on, my friends. And but just Ecuador, you know, is look at this. This is interesting. Ecuador, according to the UN, let's say, Government Development Index, it's in 2020. This is every 2 years. In 2022 is what it was 0.68 out of 1.0, the maximum. And 2024, it improved. Now, of course, the rank, it's the 67th country in the world, etc. The first is so much, the second is so much. But that's not the issue. Don't worry about the ranks. Worry about the actual data. This is the telecommunication index. This is how much networking and connection. This is ITU generates that. This is the human capacity. This is obtained from UNESCO. UNESCO have done that. And this is the online services. This is what you and DESA, we do actually in New York and Portugal, we do that. And you could see you are high, relatively high. Your online services are good. What is weakening you actually perhaps is you don't have enough infrastructure, communication lines, networking, or speed or something. And training and education is still, you have to go more further. Okay. Look at the other ranking things, Ecuador, how it was and how it's moving. You know, it's in a certain in the position within the Caribbean, within the region. And look at, for example, the GII. This is the Innovation Index, another index. You could, Ecuador is not doing that much in innovation. It's the 100th, and was 100 for the innovation inputs. And so you have to increase, so you must have a strategy that will encourage innovation. And the international, this is from ITU, already I mentioned that. You could see that the number of mobiles, etc. And this is the World Bank also. You could see it's 0.5, 0.6, 0.4. So I think what Ecuador is doing actually is an online services. You are doing well, but there is room to develop Ecuador and strategies for other things like the innovation, like the data, and etc. As I mentioned. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. I'll be happy to take any question if you like, accordingly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Saleem. It was an amazing presentation. In fact, we have a bunch of questions, but in order to optimize the time, we have chosen only 3, right?
Yeah. It's up to you. Puede hablar, puede preguntar en español. Si yo no comprendo, yo entiendo, I will speak in English. Okay.
Okay, right. The first question is, how do you think that current technologies, such as artificial intelligence, are influencing on digital transformation processes?
very quickly, the answer is, like we know something about artificial intelligence, and we don't know much more about it. It's supposed to be accelerator for the digital transformation, but if what kind of artificial intelligence programs we talk about, that's very important. It's not like artificial intelligence is one common thing that we all use. So if it is designed, the current ones we have nowadays, like Chat4GPT or Copilot, whatever it is, so many of those, and OpenAI, those things, those things will not help much in digital transformation. They can help in implementing what is planned in digital transformation. But for AI to decide what kind of transformation is needed, I think we have to wait for the next generation of AI. Could be next year or something.
Generative. Ok, thank you. La segunda pregunta la voy a hacer en español.
Sí.
En tu opinión, ¿cuál puede ser o cuáles pueden ser las regulaciones que gobiernos locales como el Ecuador podrían adoptar para promover la transformación digital en sus lugares de acción? Es decir, gobiernos locales, instituciones públicas. ¿Cuáles serían esas regulaciones que los países podrían adoptar para promover la cultura de transformación digital?
Okay. Can I answer in English?
Right.
This is a very interesting question, very nice, because you are talking about change management, if I understand correctly. You are talking about difference in governance, local and national governance. You are talking about the gap between different people and different communities or something, and rich and poor, educated, not educated. So regulations to govern all those things, that's what in one of the slides I mentioned. There must be some kind of political orientation analysis where the policies of those things have to be aligned together so as to have to complement each other. This is not like, it's not like a cookbook recipe. If you want to cook a dish, then you get this material, this rice, etc., do this and do that, and then at the end you will have your dish. But this has to be modified always depending on the needs of the community we are doing the transformation. Even in the same country, like in Ecuador, in Quito, this approach might help, might work easily, but in another area, it might not. So the policy, if you make legislation and laws for using this in Quito, you have to have a special version, temporary version for that part of the country until you make sure they are equal in there is no gap. Then you can make it common to all. So you cannot change this at one time. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And the last question is, in your opinion, how do you think the governments can guarantee the data security in these digital transformation processes?
This is a very not
question.
also a very hard question. Very hard question, my dear George. The idea, the best approach to it is, of course, for first of all, there is no fault proof. We people, as we know now, not in 2050, 2060, but people now, we have no way, and I don't know of any technology or any legislation in any country that can guarantee what you say. There is some kind of, let's say, always an imbalance. We can protect the data, we can protect this, etc., etc., but there is always a risk for something else. And once you try to, let's say, to address this risk, another risk comes from the other side. So it's like you are having three balls, you are playing like three balls, and you have to make sure that no ball falls on the ground. And in this way, I think encryption of data, double identity verification, as we have in our emails, etc., our mobile. We can use also blockchain that is segregated on the cloud in some ways to protect this data. This is one of the ways of doing this is to migrate to edge computing and fog computing, and not just a simple cloud computing. And each one would need a special laws and regulations to manage. And that takes time. At the same thing, technology is changing, methods are changing. So by the time we are adapting to this, and this is the agility, by the time we are adapting to this, we have to make sure that our way of thinking of regulations for data protection is also changing according to technology.
Okay, thank you, Saleem. And one question from our dean, please.
Yes.
Could you give us some recommendations in order to engage people with the digital transformation and the necessity of changing their minds to work for a better world?
Change, you mean change management? And when you said better world, better life, better community life, or okay. Well, I think this is a very interesting. Oh, I'm glad for because you are giving me hard questions, nice questions. Now you are a challenging question, which is very good. I will. I have lots of ideas regarding this. Unfortunately, I cannot say all those with this time, but I will be happy to reflect on this if you give me a few more days, and I will send by email suggestions on how to work around this. And if any of your colleagues of the audience, anybody, any professor who would like to explore this further, to discuss further, I will be happy to respond by email, and even maybe we can get, we as you and UEGov somehow start something that is, let's say, to support these ideas, because you have to develop those according to what you are living according to your platform. My role and our role, colleagues like me, we can, from experience, we can suggest ways to go about it and to do it. And this is what I'm going to write. I'm very happy that you asked this question. Thank you.
Okay.
Give me 4 or 5 days, and it will be by email to Professor Jaime.
Right. We are going to share your email with them.
Please do. And I welcome any inquiry, anything. Please do not hesitate at all. Anybody will be happy to do that. And write in Spanish, so I would practice my Spanish too, if you like.
Okay, perfecto. On behalf of the Computer Science College of the Technical University of Manabí from Ecuador, we want to thank Dr. Saleem Zoughbi for sharing his great experience and knowledge about digital transformation. Your presentation gave us insights into the challenges and opportunities towards sustainable development. Thank you so much, Mr. Saleem.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me and listening to me. Thank you.
Okay, gracias a todos ustedes, estimados participantes. Esto ha sido todo lo que corresponde a la conferencia magistral y en breve vamos a continuar con las ponencias planificadas para el día de hoy. Sí, les invitamos a que se mantengan en sus asientos y de